Welcome everybody to our Monday night empowerment session. Tonight, we will be talking about adaptogens and autoimmune conditions. This is something that we're seeing more and more of, and many of you heard where I'd referenced it at this point. Some of the data I saw was indicating that 24 million people a year, or in the United States right now, we're dealing with this. So I thought this was a good topic for us to focus on. So we're going to jump right in, and I want to listen to a testimony about someone who had two autoimmune conditions, and let's hear their story.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Lewinstra. Valerie asked me if I would share a little bit about my experience with Soul Products. So I started on Soul Products in June of 2018, or right around there. I had gone to a doctor's appointment in May and gotten blood work drawn and did not ever get my blood work results. So I just assumed everything was fine, but I still wasn't feeling myself. So I decided to reach out to Valerie and see what the Soul Products could do for me. So fast forward to summer of 2020. I had been on the Soul Products for about 2 years at that point. I was feeling pretty good, but still wasn't quite 100%. So I went to my primary care doctor. And when I walked in, she said, "So how are you doing with your Hashimoto's and your insulin-resistant diabetes?" I'm sorry, my what? And she said, "Well, your last blood work, you were diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is thyroiditis, or autoimmune thyroiditis, and you were insulin-resistant diabetic." Okay, did not know any of that, was never given those blood work results. So she did new blood work, and 3 weeks later I went back in, and she looked at me and she goes, "I don't know what you're doing or what you've been doing, but your insulin resistant diabetes is gone and your insulin is almost totally within the normal range." I was still a little high, but not as high as I was prior to. And she said, "Your Hashimoto's is still there, but hasn't gone up." She goes, "Unmedicated, untreated Hashimoto's for the last 2 years, your levels should be substantially higher than where they're at right now." She goes, "So I don't know what you've been doing. I don't know how you've been surviving," but she goes, "Whatever it is, keep it up, don't change it." So in the meantime, I have added some prescription thyroid medication to try to get my levels balanced out, and a medication for my Hashimoto's, but I have still been actively and religiously taking my Soul Products for the last 9 months since I started this all. And I feel a million times better. I have recently added the new vitamin D and just got my new blood work results back. And my vitamin D went from a 30 to 110. Normal range is 60 to 100. They wanted me to be between 70 and 90 at 110. So I would say it's working. My sleep is better. I'm feeling better. I have nothing but good things to say about the Soul Products, and they have definitely kept me alive and kicking when there was a lot of things that should have gone wrong in that 2-year period. But thanks to Valerie and thanks to the amazing Soul Products, I was able to make it through and did not feel really bad at all, aside from just some, tiredness overall. So I love my Soul Products. I will never give them up.
So this is such a powerful testimony on so many levels, but we're just going to focus on the autoimmune aspect of it, and the fact that an undiagnosed condition, as in, we're going to say undiagnosed because she was not given the results, even though they did diagnose it, for 2 years, using the adaptogens in the Soul Products and the Soul formulas, where they're put together, she was able to bring 2 autoimmune conditions into working towards healing them and getting herself into doing a phenomenal state. That says a lot. And I want you to remember that as we move forward, looking at autoimmune stuff. So there are I wanted to put a list here of the top 10 autoimmune diseases out here in order of prevalence. Now, this list that I found was from 1997 from a paper that was done. And I wanted to get some, basic, substantiated numbers. So this was kind of interesting. Hashimoto's is the number 1 in most prevalence. And I will tell you, all of these are much higher incidence in females than opposed to males. Then we have Graves' disease. So we've got 2 issues there. with thyroid, rheumatoid arthritis, vitiligo, type 1 diabetes, pernicious anemia, multiple sclerosis, SLE, which is a form of lupus, Sjogren's, and then myosistitis. Myosistitis has to do with muscle pain and inflammation. These are the most prevalent, again, mainly in females. And I want you to look at this cartoon that I found too. This is the most simplest way that I can explain the way autoimmune disorders are. So we're looking at it, and we've got intruder, destroy, and basically it's one of their buddies, and yet they're turning on them. That's what's happening when we're looking at autoimmune conditions. So they do refer to problems in the immune system, and the immune system is designed to, usually be fighting off viruses, bacteria, and infection. The issue happens because our immune cells instead end up attacking our body by mistake. And it can end up impacting almost any part of the body. So what are many of the symptoms? What's interesting is of the almost 100 different types of autoimmune diseases at this point, and that's amazing to me that there are that many, there are a lot of symptoms that are common across the board for these. And those are the following: fatigue, joint pain and swelling, skin issues, abdominal pain or digestive issues, recurring fever. That's going to be like a low-grade fever, and then swollen glands. So those are pretty general. And I think that's one of the reasons that sometimes it can take a while to determine exactly which autoimmune disease someone is dealing with. But as many of you know, I don't get caught up in the names of something for many reasons. One is people often own a diagnosis and then they start to self-identify, and the brain is very powerful. We can end up creating issues that we didn't have before, or bring about a diagnosis that we didn't have before. And then the other reason is that we don't have to have a disease name in order to address our foundation and support its healing to work on countering. And just like you just heard in that testimony earlier, all we knew was what she presented with me. I came in, supported her foundation. She followed through and did it. She did all the work, and she got amazing results, again, without a diagnosis. So there's a lot of interesting things and risk factors that people are like, well, how do we know if we are predisposed to having this issue? And there's a couple different theories, and they often point to an overactive immune system that attacks the body. And I want you to notice this after an infection or an injury. So keep that into it top of mind. This is also one of the reasons that our adaptogenic formulas are even more powerful when we have something as crucial, like whenever Troy was so sick a year and a half ago. I wanted to make certain that his body did not turn on him, because I had all these adaptogenic formulas at my disposal, which I was using with him. We have helped him to be able to come out of this in many ways with better health than what he had coming in. So what are some of the common risk factors? Genetics. It's not uncommon to know that certain health issues or predispositions to certain health issues run the family. I see a lot of that when it comes to multiple sclerosis. If you're an overweight, then you're going to be predisposed to things like rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic arthritis, and they think a lot of that may be because of the added wear and tear that comes on the joints. If you smoke, and again, we'll see more lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, hyperthyroidism, and multiple sclerosis. Now, this was an interesting piece of research that I read across, and talked about certain medications, how that could increase your risk for having autoimmune conditions. Certain blood pressure medications or antibiotics can trigger a drug-induced form of lupus. So again, notice that what I have up there, the overactive immune system attacking the body after an infection or injury. So they might have been put on these medications as a result of something like that, and then they ended up with the other condition. And then statins. There's a type of statin-induced myopathy that can end up happening as well. So not all autoimmune conditions come from just genetics. They can be created by certain experiences or traumas or shock factors that we have in life. So here's where adaptogens enter into the pictures. And I had so much fun actually putting this slide together, because as I'm putting it together, I'm like, wow, this is just beautiful. And you see the vibrancy and everything. And so let's hear a little bit about what adaptogens have done for a couple of different autoimmune conditions before we go on and look at this. So this was a great testimony for someone with an autoimmune illness that now the doctor's saying might be Lyme's. This person started with taking adaptable. On day 4, they were taking 2 before bed. They realized when they got up the next day that they slept all night and they had no muscle cramps in their legs, and they woke up to tons of energy. For anyone that's been dealing with, long-term illness, this is this is noteworthy. So they were even remarking they were almost in tears because they felt so good. Their husband and son saw them in the morning and were shocked that they were up with a smile, so early with a smile. And it didn't dawn on them that it was adaptable until they remembered what they took before bed. And here another for a person with lupus. And their client called to tell them that they had started using the Infatuate. And in a week's time, they could definitely tell their inflammation was so much better. Even though they work full time, they're aware that the inflammation and pain issues tied to their lupus is that they just can't even imagine trying to survive without Sol. But they could tell adding the Infatuate to the program made a big difference as well. So I thought this was a great picture to help us understand exactly what adaptogens are going to be doing here. So let's look at the quote I've got here. Adaptogens are strengthening herbs that bring balance back to the body, no matter what the direction of imbalance. They combine both tonic and balancing properties. So if we notice this young girl, look how many different things she is balancing at one time. And yet she's still going across the tightrope. To me, that is so, explains so well what our adaptogens are helping our body to do. There's so many different things that have to be balanced, and each of them a different way. And adaptogens are phenomenal at being able to do this. It is a very unique skill set to be able to do what this young girl's doing. It's a very unique set of properties that these adaptogens have at helping us to be able to regulate and deal with what's happening with the imbalance. So you guys are familiar with my tree that I like to use when we're talking about health. Let's see how it ties into our adaptogens. Now, what does this have to do with our autoimmune conditions? The word adaptogen refers to this non-specific endocrine regulating immune modulating effects, which are going of certain plants that increase a person's ability to maintain optimal balance in the face of physical or emotional stress. So immune modulating, what does that mean? What that means is if the system is overactive, which is what is theorized with autoimmune condition, it's able to scale it back. But at the same time, that plant can help someone whose immune system is underactive to come up and do what it's supposed to do. So no matter what, that same plant the body can take it and will get the result that it needs best to achieve the health it needs to achieve. And with autoimmune, having that overactive immune system, this is very critical. So there's also a lot of research done, and I thought this was really important too, about stress activating the innate immune response, and that's an inflammatory response. But at the same time, it suppresses your adaptive immune response, which is the one that's modulatory or normalizing. Well, we have the adaptogens come in and help to immune modulate. So it's keeping the stress from hitting the body so hard that is causing just inflammation. It helps to reduce that impact and help the immune system respond the way it's designed. And if we think about our disease tree here, we have 4 different components that tie into the roots. Now, the first one being mental and emotional stress. Adaptogens are great. In fact, they're excellent in helping the body deal with mental and emotional stress. They're also great at helping with nutritional deficiencies. because the way these formulas that we put together with the adaptogens in them, they are so loaded with all these, and many of them are nutrient dense plants. That's why they tie in with some of the tonic elements as well. Physical trauma. We never know how the body is going to respond or what is coming back from and responding. And being able to use adaptogens to help the body to adjust to the impact of the trauma is huge. And then finally, toxic overloads. Again, helping certain organs to step up and do what it needs to do, helping protect the body from some of the toxins. These are all things that are in the wheelhouse of the adaptogens and why these formulas work so well as supporting that foundation. So I thought it would be fun to create a list of all the adaptogens in the Soul family, Soul formulas. And as you can see, I put it right here with a treasure chest, because to me, this is the gold that is in our formulas. This is what makes our formulas stand out. As you know, all of our formulas have at least one adaptogen in them. They are powerful. And then we've got a couple in here that we look at as being adaptogenic-like in their qualities, or they're well known as what we call an adaptogenic companion, that they work phenomenal right there, stepping up with it. It's kind of like a key element in partnership. So we've got astragalus, ashwagandha, rhodiola. We've got yellow, red, and black maca. We have the raponticum, eleuthero, schizandra, jaugelin, suma, goji, which is also known as lycium, guduchi, sea buckthorn, yerba mate, red reishi, cordyceps, tribulus, rooibos, nopal, amla, albizia, also known as mimosa, holy basil, noni, magnolia bark, maitake mushroom, bacopa, licorice, bilberry, ginger, hawthorn, nettle, rosemary, and American ginseng. These guys, look at all these amazing power hitters we have in our formulas. Do you understand why we get the results that we do? How someone can't help but get results, and many times unexpected results that just really change their life for the better. So from our own Dr. Allison Caldwell Andrews, she has a great testimony that I think is important to bring in at this point, because she has some of her own challenges that she deals with. And she was talking about how, and she wrote this testimony several years ago about how she was overwhelmed because she was trying to figure out how she was getting these 30 different supplements, vitamins, minerals, etc., that was on this list that she was supposed to use to challenge these health issues. And it was going to result in more pills than she would ever consider taking. So in her infinite wisdom, she decided to do her project backwards. And I love this. She listed all the nutrients that she needed, and then she checked off whether or not they were already present in the various Soul products. She said it was incredible. She said if she just kept current on Daily Vital, Soul Mega, Complete, Excel, and Soul Maca, and Cinnamate, then she could knock off 25 of the 30 nutrients. And my bet is now that it's even higher, because this was before we had several other formulas that we do now. And so the important thing here is the fact, and I've got this highlighted, that whole plants are used to make these, and they're much less of a concern because we have increased bioavailable and knowing nothing is synthetic. And remember, so many people get so tied up on trying to determine how much of each nutrient do we have, and taking a pill for every one of them. So when we're dealing with autoimmune conditions, people already are challenged in their system. The more nutrient dense in a whole plant form that we can get the nutritional value that we need, while helping the body to be able to use this, not only its own innate intelligence, but let's call it the plant intelligence is coming from the adaptogens. Can you not see that this is a win-win combination? So at this point, I was hoping that Greg Halliday would share with us a little bit of the importance of sourcing and why this is Soul pays such strict attention to this. And it underscores the importance when we have someone dealing with this autoimmune conditions, why they can trust what we have going on with the Soul products here. So let me, stop share. There we go. Greg, do you need me to make you a co-host?
Let's see, do you see, can you hear me, Valerie?
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to figure out why my screen, I'm not seeing the Zoom. I'm not seeing you all, and I can't figure it out here.
Well, that
What did
makes
I
me
do?
feel good because usually I'm the one doing that. I've lost everybody.
That is so funny. Let's see.
Down on the bottom with the camera.
Well, it's funny. I'm flipping through the pages, and it's the part I want to show a slide from our guarantee, and I apologize everybody for my technical. I was somehow on my computer because I wanted to show you the right section of the Soul Certain guarantee. And somehow the little window that shows the Zoom is not showing up. Oh, there you are, Valerie. I don't know what you did to me. Pop back in. Okay, good. So I'll share screen really fast. I do love this question. And just let me know, can you see that okay then? This is just from the website. And if you go to About Us and our guarantee, that's what I've clicked on, our guarantee. And there's a little intro, and there are key points in all of it. It's not very long. It's really it's sort of a long one page. If you haven't ever read through it, I recommend you do it one time. You can skim it, but I think if you take a little bit of time and just think about it, it'll give you insights into what Valerie's talking about today, sort of take it in context of what she's been teaching about adaptogenic herbs. I've always said when we shared this, and I'm not sure we've done this on your webinar, have I gone through the points of the Soul Certain guarantee yet, Valerie?
If we did, it's been quite a while.
Been quite a while. I've done some where I'll do like a couple a week, do the first 3 and then whatever, because there's a lot to talk about. And what I'd just like to say by way of intro is that we wrote these for 2 reasons. For anyone to look at Soul and be able to see the commitment to quality, and also for everyone who is employed by Soul and will be in the decades to come. By writing this, it shows the standard that we are promising. And so it's important to me that everyone see it, including all of those who work at Soul. With the conversation today, let me just read, if it's okay, numbers 1 and 2. Okay, we'll just do that. So number 1, we verify and utilize only the most beneficial part of the plant. The reason I say that is because you can buy plant powders that are very inexpensive because they are the actual plant, and sellers know that they're popular, they're in the news, and they're a lot cheaper. Generally, the red flag when it's cheaper is which part of the plant is this? So number 1 is very important. We only utilize the part of the plant that has the active components. Now, that being said, some of our ingredients, you'll notice multiple parts of the plant. So when we talk about, Valerie said we use whole plants. What she means by that is if the root is the part that's used, we use all of the root. We don't extract certain things out of it and leave the rest. And I'll give you a couple of examples of that. But so using the whole plant, I'll give you an example, Amitox. Now, that was just being manufactured a couple of days ago in the, I think we had a group out here visiting. Valerie, Betty Runkle and friends came out and saw it. And I think Amitox was being bottled. Wormwood, also known as Artemisia, is in Amitox. And there are studies that show that virus they can't duplicate when wormwood's present. I saw a study that was released in Boston about 6 months ago. They were all excited because a certain famous virus wouldn't replicate. It could get in the cell, but it couldn't replicate. So they want to do more studies with wormwood. And they were using a certain part of it. We actually have, if you look on the Omnitox label, both leaf and stem, wormwood leaf and stem. So if there are multiple parts of the plant, we'll use all of the beneficial parts, usually all. So we use the beneficial. So depending on what our objective, it could be the root, the leaf, or the stem, or a combination of all. Some plants, it is entirely the whole plant. There are different components in every part of it, root, stem, leaf, all of it, and we even flower sometimes, so we'll use it all. This warranty includes official documentation for each ingredient, so we get that verified. And then once we receive it, we verify it again here in a lab. That's just common, that's just our standard procedure. Look at number 2. We carefully select and verify the appropriate nature of the plant supplement. In accordance with our mind-body blend, this could be the whole plant powder, a whole plant extract, a standardized extract, or a concentrated extract. And I think this is the one that more directly answers Valerie's question today, or the issue she wanted me to discuss. Why is the sourcing so important when it comes to adaptogenic herbs? Well, you'll notice that in most of our products, there are several. A couple of them just have one known adaptogen and then some great complementary herbs. Most of them have more than one. Some have 5 or 6. Several have 5 or 6, actually, of our products. I want to say 6 or 7 of the products have that many adaptogens. When we're putting that many adaptogens in it, we will often use a variety of what you see listed in number 2. And I'll just explain the difference. So the whole plant powder is always going to be extracted using the best methods known. And so it always will be slightly more potent than just a plant that you grabbed and broke down, okay? But it's basically the plant as best we can preserve it in a dry powder in its natural state. A whole plant extract is going to be quite a bit more concentrated. So that's the difference between a powder and an extract. The extract is quite a bit more concentrated anyway. A standardized extract is looking at one or more components of the plant that can vary a lot depending on where it's grown. Like in the case of yerba mate, the matine, which is very, very similar to caffeine, is being used in it, and we feel abused, meaning some people will just extract that. And so you have a lot of variety of mate extracts, powdered extracts available. And in order to standardize our product and make sure we always get a high level of natural occurring, we use a standardized extract, standardized to the matine or the caffeine in it. So that's an example of, sometimes it's because we see a lot of industry abuse. Sometimes it's because there's a lot of variation in sourcing because the plant grows on different continents, multiple continents, and some places just have a better amount of certain ingredients. Another example of that would be St. John's wort, which has hypericin and hyperforin, which are 2 components that can vary. And to make sure that those 2, which are part of a lot of studies. Now, a lot of people will extract those out and leave the rest of the plant. We don't do that either. So a standardized extract still includes the rest of the plant. But certain components, I guess a recent one that we just did in the longevity, the goji berry or lycium in it has 2 different forms. One of the forms is a whole plant and the other is a standardized extract to the polysaccharides. Again, an element that often gets maybe altered. So we have different reasons to guarantee consistency and enough potency to use standardization. And then a concentrated extract would be different than a standardized. A concentrated would be when you see on our bottles 4:1 or sometimes 10:1. So in the new collagen formula that's coming out, a number of the components, like 6 or 7, are 10:1 concentrates, which means that the whole plant is extracted 10, like you're getting 10 servings of all the components that can be extracted for the same amount of material that you would normally get one serving. So that's a 10-to-1. So these are all the various reasons. And because we blend them, obviously you can get vastly different results depending on what form you're sourcing your adaptogen in. And we're trying to blend, since we blend several adaptogens together, we're looking at how they work together, but also the objectives of the formula and making sure that someone has enough. I'll just end with saying that when you're working with any imbalance, and I love how Valerie talks so much about balance, I deeply believe personally that there are 3 things you always have to look at in your nutrition. And when you, especially with supplements, first, am I getting enough of it? And that is personal. We have general recommendations, but it is personal. You have to find that. That's the work we do. You can have a mentor to help you, but we all have to get there and learn it for ourselves and listen to our body, right? Am I getting enough nutrient? So this is why we source in concentrated extracts and in multiples to help make that easier for you to get enough. The second is, am I getting enough variety? Again, adaptogens having so many components makes it easier for you to get the variety so you can see a change, see a balance, an achievement there, an improvement. And then the third is enough time doing it. Am I giving my body a chance? So to me, if I'm not getting the results, I can always trace it back to one of those 3 things and think about, okay, what am I taking? When am I taking it? How much? And I can talk with my mentor, who I can always talk this through. But to me, so much of it centers right there. And adaptogens make all of those 3 things easier. All 3 of those, I'd say, challenges of nutrition. Back to you, Valerie.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. That's exactly what I was hoping we would go.
All right.
Okay. So most of you are pretty familiar and know that I'm always looking at and aware of the emotional components for things. And this was really good testimony from Lois Trippett. She talked about how over 20 years ago, she was dealing with autoimmune, with Epstein-Barr and chronic fatigue, and became very aware of the importance about transforming your negative self-talk. So changing how the mind is looking at things and using discernment, and then looking about the lies that you're telling yourself and that you're often people are believing. And I see this all the time, whether or not someone's saying they're not enough, that they can't get it right, life is too overwhelming, it's their fault, they can't accomplish it. You get the idea. So changing your thinking, and with the soul compass blends, you can help just anchor that new thought pattern and even much more strongly, and help to release the other negative thought patterns. So I just want to bring that in because supporting the emotional component when it comes to healing is equally as important. So when we're looking at where to start, because there's, like I said, we've got up to like 100 different disease names for different autoimmune conditions at this point. People are very familiar that I like to start with the Bella Health, with the longevity, where we're supporting and focusing on our gut health. But equally as effective, and depending on which direction that you want to go and where you want to start, the top 4 products with the 4 different drinks, I've used that for many people as well and get very powerful results. I've also used the approach of the primary balance package. I listen to the person, we see what is going on with them and where they would like to start and what they're hoping to achieve. But the neat thing is we have adaptogens in all of these products, and many adaptogens are there, and you can get different results. You could rotate between doing Bella Health for a couple months, doing the top 4 for a couple months, doing primary balance. The fact is you're going to get results, and the adaptogens are, to me, one of the most exciting opportunities to nutritionally support your foundation when it comes to autoimmune conditions and helping to get some stabilization there. So for our quote today, I thought this was very apropos. It's not what we say out loud that determines our lives. It's what we whisper to ourselves that has the most power. And I think this is very important because often people who are just been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, they are feeling overwhelmed and they're feeling powerless. So it becomes so important what we are whispering to ourselves. And with the adaptogens being added in to your daily regimen, that self-talk changes so much for the better, and it's so much easier to sustain. So next week will be our soul Q&A, and we will be focusing on the soul business. And of course, every Monday night at 6:30, would love to have you join us. So we have